This is insane as an NHL Insider reveals a shocking Canucks report regarding Rick Tocchet's contract negotiations. And with a recent announcement out of Pittsburgh, one of Tocchet's replacements has come to light and has fans absolutely buzzing. We're going to be breaking down all that in this episode of Canucks Digest. But first, if you want to join the 7,000 plus subscribers that we already have on the channel on our road to 10,000, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you can stay up to date on all things Canucks. And with that, let's hop straight into the first topic of the day, which is Friedman's Tocchet update. So something that kind of caught traction over the weekend was Elliotte Friedman's appearance on Donnie and Dolly on Friday, saying, I think we're going to know as of Friday, soon. As of Friday, nobody had been given permission to talk to Tocchet. There were some meetings between the Canucks and Tocchet on Friday and at the end of last weekend to talk about things. Going even further, saying, I really do think if he's coaching next year, the most likely outcomes are Vancouver and Philadelphia. And then on Sunday, he did go on 32 Thoughts with Kyle Bukoska saying, so they met Friday and I was told, as of recording this on Sunday, I was told no final decision yet. I still don't think this will be a very long time, obviously, before we hear something. So the Philadelphia stuff, as soon as John Tortorella was fired, it was immediate noise of Rick Tocchet to Philadelphia. Done deal. It's happening. Wait till Vancouver just gets to the end of the season and doesn't make the playoffs. But in the midst of that, Vancouver was still trying to push for that final wild card spot. Did it work out? No. We're on the golf course. Other teams are trying to push for the Stanley Cup. But in the midst of that, there was all this noise on top of so much noise throughout the entire season. We've talked about it at length since the end of the season, even before the end of the season. This was just another layer of noise added on top of it. Tocchet was just trying to bury it, saying, hey, we're not focused on this right now, not until the end of the year. Just continuing to say what he has been saying all year, what Patrik Allvin was saying. They just wanted to get through the season, get through that playoff push. Fortunately, it didn't work out, and then worry about the extension afterwards. So with that, now you have all these things coming out about the negotiations, what Tocchet wants, about a training facility, Rutherford backing that up in his press conference, and so many other things. But it seems that we're not going to be waiting too much longer before we hear something about Tocchet. And Elliotte saying that it's going to be Vancouver or Philly, that's a big one because that could be Tocchet going back to where he played or playing where he has a chance to actually be a contender instead of on a terrible team like the Philadelphia Flyers. Obviously, he's probably thinking it would be nice to go back to where he played, but at this time as a coach. However, Vancouver, that is definitely where he should be and where the players want him to be. Quinn Hughes, Connor Garland, so many guys just say nothing but the nicest things about Tocchet and him as a coach, as a person, and how he's helped these guys grow as players, as people, and just being an embodiment of what this Canucks team should and needs to be in order to bring a Stanley Cup to Vancouver for the very first time. So a lot of stuff from Elliotte that is kind of not smoke and mirrors, but a little bit of nothing, a little bit of something, a little bit of here and there. So yeah, there was a lot to go off of with Elliotte, while also not much to go off of. He did seem to talk more about the training facility that Tocchet wants and how, yeah, they're one of the few teams that doesn't have one in the league. They practice at UBC, so when they can't get the ice sometimes for the main ice, they're practicing at a local rink, which is absolutely insane to think about. So yeah, Aquilini, they need a facility. Jim Rutherford, he wants to get a facility done. It's been in the works for years. So hopefully they can get a training facility done, because maybe that's more incentive to keep Tocchet there and have him sign that contract extension. But what do you guys think about all this? Do you think Elliotte is just speaking the truth here, saying, hey, maybe it's happening, maybe it's not. It could be Philly, it could be Vancouver. Let us know what you guys have to say down in the comments below. But that's going to take us into our second topic of the day, which is worst case Ontario. If you guys are a fan of Trailer Park Boys, you know the reference I'm making here. But this is in referring to what Pittsburgh has announced over the weekend, saying that they have parted ways with Mike Sullivan as their head coach. This was something that was kind of anticipated after Pittsburgh missed the playoffs. But nevertheless, Mike Sullivan, still a really good coach. He was someone who has, during his 10 years in Pittsburgh, compiled a .409, .255, and .89 record with 2 Stanley Cups in his first 2 seasons as a head coach. Sullivan also enjoyed representing his country as Team USA's head coach on various occasions. He served as assistant head coach for the U.S. Olympic team in 2006 and the World Cup of Hockey in 2016. More recently, he was appointed as head coach of the Four Nations Faceoff and will be the USA's head coach at the upcoming 2026 Winter Olympics. So yeah, Sullivan has a lot of intangibles, a lot of accolades, and a very lengthy resume. But with that, where do the Canucks play into this? Because obviously just a firing, maybe just naturally the Canucks are in contract negotiations and all that. But The one thing we got to think of, the Canucks front office of Patrik Allvin and Jim Rutherford directly came from the Pittsburgh Penguins organization. Both Allvin and Rutherford were in upper management in Pittsburgh during their back-to-back Stanley Cups in 2016 and 2017, with Sullivan behind the bench. Outside of the connection to the current Canucks management, there are even more ties to Sullivan in Vancouver. In 2013, Sullivan served as the assistant head coach of the Canucks under John Tortorella. After just one season, both coaches were relieved of their duties, having failed to make the playoffs for the first time in 5 seasons with a 36, 35, and 11 record. Obviously, a time of transition. John Tortorella has talked about his time in Vancouver, how it just was not the right time, wasn't the right fit. And it seems like that was the case for Sullivan, who went on to win back-to-back Stanley Cups, being a head coach in Pittsburgh in his first 2 seasons doing it. So that's a big thing for Mike Sullivan, just having those intangibles, having that resume. Like I said, it brings a lot of success with that. And yes, Tocchet has had success as our head coach, winning the Jack Adams. And I'm not saying this as a condemnation of Tocchet, but Mike Sullivan just naturally has a lengthier and more impressive resume. Tocchet hasn't had a chance to build that resume as long as Mike Sullivan has, being a head coach for 10 years and Tocchet having only been a head coach for 2 years, really 2.5 at this point. So yeah, there's a lot of things here where Tocchet, I love him as a coach. I definitely think that he should still be our head coach. But if this is a scenario where they can't get a contract negotiation worked out, you go out and get Mike Sullivan because of the familiarity. And yes, everyone's going to be saying, well, if we can't get Tocchet, promote Manny Malhotra. Keep Manny in Abbotsford for a few more years. In a few more years, then he will be ready, because now he is mentoring all these guys that will eventually be in the NHL. He's going to make sure those guys are NHL ready. We saw already with last season how many of those AHL guys probably will be either permanent roster spots next year or making a lot more appearances than they did last season. And a big part of that is Manny Malhotra. So if he develops those guys for the next 3-4 years, by the time that they're already tenured Canucks, he comes in, takes over the reins, unless they sign Tocchet to a long extension. I'm speaking as if they don't get Tocchet. Then you bring Manny in there after a head coach or two, especially if you don't get Sullivan or it doesn't work out like Tortorella didn't work out. Then you bring in Manny at that point. However, in the meantime, you don't get Tocchet, you go and get Mike Sullivan no matter what. You back up the Brinks truck for him and say, hey, we want to bring you, we love you. Obviously, Allvin and Rutherford, they have a familiarity with him. They've worked with him before. They've won cups with him. So yeah, you go out there and say, hey, let's go run it back, this time on the West Coast and for a Canadian team. Let's try and bring a cup to Vancouver for the first time. Now, granted, this is something where, as a Canucks fan, I'm very torn with this. Obviously, I love Rick Tocchet. Like I said, I would love to have him back. But if we can go out and get a coach like Mike Sullivan, this is something that could almost be plopped in our laps, where a head coach like this doesn't just fall out of the sky like that. Yes, Tortorella, he's been around for a long time. He's a really great coach. He's a very acquired taste. A coach like that, we tried it in Vancouver. It didn't really work. And yes, he has the impressive resume, but it didn't work out. Obviously, it didn't work out with Bruce Boudreau. Didn't work out with a few other coaches as well. Even when they've been able to get us to the dance, obviously with Alain Vigneault, it did not work out. Ultimately, Pat Quinn did eventually leave. So yeah, there's been a history of Vancouver head coaches where no matter what their resume or the intangibles, it does have a chance of not working out. And granted, it's not a guaranteed success with Mike Sullivan. However, you would be bringing in a coach with a lot more experience, a lot more championships, and a lot more national coaching stages as well, to bring in a lot of just experience, a lot of composure, a lot of poise, and making sure these guys don't let the pressure get to them, especially after the season that we had. And yes, I think Tocchet did a fantastic job navigating the struggles that Vancouver had this season. Injuries, drama on and off the ice, media, so many things at play for Vancouver. Trades, free agents that didn't work out, a lot of things in between. So yeah, as rocky as the waters were this season, Tocchet did the best job that he could, and I don't think any coach could have done a better job at trying to rally these guys behind him as a coach, given the circumstances that this Canucks team was dealt this season. Now you bring in a guy like Mike Sullivan, maybe he's able to do a better job than Tocchet. Who knows? However, you still are bringing in a guy that will need to reacclimate with players, establish a chemistry that was now having to start over from scratch, a chemistry that was established with Rick Tocchet and now having to start over with the players. The management will have that familiarity with him for sure, but not only that, you're bringing in an entirely new coaching staff, because both Rick Tocchet, Adam Foote, all those guys, they're attached with him. They're attached with his contract. So if Tocchet goes, they go. So if you bring in Sullivan, maybe he has a staff that comes with him, or you have to completely start over and rehire a bunch of staff. That's where it would be getting very complicated for the Canucks. So yes, on paper, everyone wants to jump at the idea of Mike Sullivan being the new head coach in Vancouver. Trust me, it would be really cool. However, when looking at the ramifications of it, the implications of it, what it would take to make that happen, or what would happen after they bring him here, it would be a very risky move for Vancouver when looking at what they already have in Tocchet. But what do you guys have to say about all this down in the comments below? Do you guys think that it would be amazing to have Sullivan there over Tocchet? Would you rather have Tocchet over Sullivan? Let us know what you guys have to say down in the comments below. And let us know what you guys have to say about the upcoming NHL draft. It's going to be coming around the corner pretty quickly, as well as free agency. So what prospects do you want to see the Canucks go after? Could be seeing those guys pop up in some early draft videos and predictions as well. And what free agents coming up do you want to see the Canucks go after and target? Let us know what you guys have to say down in the comments below. Let us know your picks. It's going to be interesting to read through and see all the reactions on this episode. But with that, I've been your host, Griffen. Take care.